Looking for a new career? Welcome to Do HVAC Training Service Center in North Charleston. Enroll today in our comprehensive HVAC training hands-on field experience-based program, covering troubleshooting, maintenance, installation, and more on various HVAC systems and ductwork. We offer EPA and NAEP preparation and testing, along with various certifications. Enjoy payment options. Achieve certification in under 5 months. Enroll now for your new journey of skill development and career advancement. Log on to dewhvactrainingsc.com to inquire.
I'm George Santos, and I'm here with We Are Not Journalists.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Coming up on We Are Not Journalists.
Well, that's my retirement plan, actually. If my current approach to things doesn't work out, I can just, have a revelation and realize that I've been brainwashed by the woke mob, and I feel like that's going to be a very lucrative second career for me.
To hear you say it, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to another We Are Not Journalists. I'm Maximilian
Clark.
And
I'm not journalist Walter Masterson.
And was that really George Santos?
Yeah, that was actually George Santos. So normally, people are buying cameos from him and paying all this money for him to just say whatever and promote their new book or anything. I got that for free at Moms for Liberty, the Moms for Liberty event in New York. I just went up to him and I told him I was a huge fan, asked for a selfie, and then asked him to say that, and he said it. And I just grifted a cameo off of him. So, I learned from the best, George Santos, if you're listening. So George Santos, that will forever be our new title intro. So thank you to George Santos.
Oh my goodness!
And the best part was, as soon as he took that video with me, someone walked right up to him and they were like, they whispered to him, and they were like, "I hope you did not do anything. Do you know who you just spoke to?" He looked over at me and then stared at me for a few minutes. Oh, what have I done?
That makes me so extra happy.
Yeah. So Valentine's Day is coming up, Max. Have you bought anything for your wife?
Yeah, actually, my wife and I have a nice little tradition of doing informational PowerPoints for each other on Valentine's Day, and I just picked my figure. It's going to be nice.
Okay, you can't plan for the Valentine's Day in January.
I can't?
No, otherwise you're gay. It's gay to do that.
It's gay to do something nice for my female woman wife.
Yeah. I mean, what part don't you get?
Where are you getting this from? Wait, hang on. Did someone let you use the internet again?
Okay, Max, I feel like you're not really understanding this. So I'm going to play a clip from genius, personal hero, and intellectual thought leader, Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire.
But of course, 97% of us are buying the Valentine's Day gift on the way home from work on February 14th. But buying a Valentine's Day gift for your wife a month early is the gayest thing you could do. Don't do that, because if it's January 3rd and you tell your wife, "I got you Valentine's Day gift already," she's going to say, "So you're gay." Well, that kind of ruins Valentine's Day, doesn't it?
I'm just going to say it back slowly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that Matt Walsh explained it was pretty clear. I think he did a great job of explaining it. I don't understand why you're still not getting it.
Well, it's basically the core concept, because my wife is a woman.
I feel like it's weird. There's sort of a disconnect. You and I watched Matt Walsh together, and we sort of come away with a lot of different takeaways.
No, I just want to back it up one step further. And even if it were gay,
which it is,
I don't feel comfortable using that as a pejorative, which is a smart person word for bad thing.
Listen, you know what? You want to be all PC about Valentine's Day, and that's why Valentine's Day is, being ruined, because of the woke left, being all PC about it. What's wrong with just not being gay for one day out of the year?
She's a woman. Fellas, is it gay to love a woman?
I think so. I think that's what Matt Walsh is trying to say, that being with women is kind of a gay thing. And if you are with a woman, you're gay.
Matt Walsh became famous in conservative circles for a documentary where he asked gender experts what a woman was.
Yes.
And
they couldn't respond in 2 seconds.
This bearded refuse crawled out of debatement culture and is the epitome of guys who ask a question that is steeped in nuance. And if you can't answer it in 2 seconds, he's like, aha, I've won. And they claim victory and they just leave. And I think this is why our country's dying.
Yes, Max. So no, it's a fantastic movie. And thank you for that, Max. Thank you for that, endorsement. I mean, so Max, what is a woman?
Well, as well as I do, that there's a lot to it.
I feel like you don't know. You don't. You actually can't answer it. You can't answer it.
All right, Walter.
This is the thing with the left.
All right, Walter.
They
you answer it. What is a woman?
You know what? Trans women are not men.
Wow. You just came out and said
and
it.
Trans men, they're not women.
Wow. Okay. Well, you got me there. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. So the race for the presidential nomination for the grand old party has really tightened up.
Yes, it has.
And speaking of race, there have been some claims recently that people in the Republican Party are racist. See what I did
Max. In the Republican Party?
Well, Vivek Ramaswamy, our guy, our horse in this race.
Yeah,
this came after kind of a weak showing in Iowa. And there was some discussion in the media about the role of race in the uphill battle he had. And one thing that caught my attention was this interview his wife, Apoorva, had, where she was talking to some of their supporters in Iowa.
People say, gives them like, oh, I can't vote for him because what are the things that they tell me? What answers can I help you provide? Or just see.
Well, the only one I've had, and I don't even couldn't even remember who said that to me, but they mentioned about it's dark skins, and they think Muslims right away. Yeah. So I kind of set them straight on what they believe. I thought I was covering for it. I don't know, but and I tried to explain.
Fair, not much we can do about that one.
Well, so but nothing.
And again, these are people that are caucusing for Vivek in the race, and the way this lady just looks at her husband and then pauses and then says that the only reason people have said that they don't want to vote for Ramaswamy in this race is because he has dark skin, and so they think that makes him a Muslim, which for them is a no-go. And she tried to convince them otherwise, and they thought she was just covering for him. And her looking at this video, her husband's just staring daggers into the middle distance the whole time. Like, he does not want to be on television associated with this at all.
Huh. And that's, that's just a shame. Because, I mean, if these voters had looked past, his race, they could have, seen him for what he really is, which is a grifter who grifted, hundreds of millions of dollars off of the pharmaceutical industry.
And that could have saved his campaign.
Yeah, and they love grifters.
So you see, Walter, they do seem to allude to the stuff that we've seen on the ground a lot, which is they are concerned about people that aren't white Christians.
I mean, but it's not about race. He even said it himself, right?
You didn't say that you condemn white supremacy.
I'm not going to recite some catechism for you. I'm against vicious racial discrimination in this country. So I'm not pledging allegiance to your new religion of modern wokeism, which absolutely fits the test. I'm not going to bend the knee to your religion. I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to bend the knee to mine, and I'm not going to bend the knee to yours. But do I condemn vicious racial discrimination? Yes, I do. Am I going to play your silly game of gotcha? No, I'm not. And frankly, this is why people have lost trust. And I know you're going to go print the headline tomorrow. I already know this. We already know how your game works. Vivek Ramaswamy refuses to condemn white supremacy because you asked a stupid question.
Just to jump in here, the stupid question is, don't you condemn white supremacy? And he's like, well, just because I'm not condemning white supremacy, you're going to run a stupid headline that's like, Vivek Ramaswamy refuses to condemn white supremacy. And there's like almost a fear behind this, because if he did it, and, for any human, this is an easy thing, like, obviously, yes, and maybe it is a stupid question, but I think they're putting him on the spot precisely because him condemning white supremacy is bad politics in the Republican Party. You can say that people are racist and that you've met racists, because that's the obvious truth to anyone. Mm-hmm. But they don't like to think of America as being racist. And this is a sort of semantics distinction. And I wonder if people really disagree. Because, look at Nikki Haley.
I mean, yeah, she's also said, that, America's not a racist country at all.
Yeah, but play the clip.
I want to ask you about a comment you made earlier this week. You said that America has, quote, never been a racist country.
When you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that
men are created equal. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful they didn't. Because for every brown and black child out there, if you tell them they live or were born in a racist country, you're immediately telling them they don't have a chance. And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country.
You're talking about the ideals of America, but America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look, it said all men are created equal. I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happen over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with.
I want to start with pointing out that this question that Jake Tapper asked is kind of stupid, and it's something that you hear a lot. And it's not that it's just not important to talk about whether America is racist. It's just the question itself gives people so many outs. It's like, is America racist? I don't know. Are the trees racist? Is the ground racist? And Nikki Haley's doing a good job with one of the deflections. She makes it about the intentions. Was it the intention of these people to make a racist country? The reason this is tricky is because it conflates their goal of building a country with a strong economy based off of slavery with their goal being racism. And of course, that's not the intention, but is it the effect? And that's the conversation we want to be having. She talked about all the changes that had to be made in order to give people the vote, to give people the basic rights that were enjoyed by white men. And the people that fought for those rights had to admit there was a problem first. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. She experienced racism. Her family experienced racism. But she can't talk about America as a country being racist and be a Republican candidate for president.
Her name's also Nikki Haley. And, she's had to drop her Indian identity completely. Because, America's not racist at all. There's no bias at all. That's totally why I shed this whole Indian identity and just went white on everyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's a real hindrance to getting elected in the GOP. Her Indian heritage is a strike against her in some voter blocks. And it's something that Trump is even weaponizing against her.
Max, it's not an attack. It's just her name. I mean, come on, you're being a little racist here.
Oh, yeah, of course. Trump isn't using it as an attack. He's just telling her to be proud of it.
Yeah.
Listen to Trump talk about it.
She points back to you praising her, and now she says that you're using a nickname based on her given name, Nimrata. You called her Nimbra in a post the other day. Why do you do that?
Well, I do that with a lot of people. And with her, it's just something that came. It's a little bit of a takeoff on her name, her name, wherever she may come from. But it's just
What do you mean by
that?
that? What do you mean?
It's a little bit of a takeoff. I look at her name. I look at a lot of people. I do a lot of names for people, like Pocahontas. Some people say I'm very good at that, but I can't get into too many because many of those people that I named like that are Republicans, and we don't want to bring that up. But no, it's just it's a takeoff. I have fun with it.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, dude, he's slipping. He's really slipping. I mean, this is the
this
pudding
is bad.
fingers, man. He got that to trend. Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer. And all he can do is just say, like, her name.
Wait, your problem with this is that it's not a good enough insult?
I mean, for Trump, come on, man. Like, step up your game. You can't just, if you want to be racist, you got to, dig in a little bit. You need some deniability. You can't just go with her actual Indian name.
I think that the essential point here is he thinks it's an insult, right? He's using it that way. And this is the mastermind of some of the best political insults of the 21st century. And so if he thinks there's something there just in pointing out she has Indian heritage, Doesn't that speak to a race problem within the GOP?
I don't know, Max. I mean, maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. I'm just thinking about this for the first time ever.
Strap in, buddy. We're about to do some critical race theory.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. No. Wait. My kids are here. Wait. Stop it.
Walter. Now you must go to the re-education lab.
Not the law school level course.
All right. Well, I'm going to re-educate Walter, and we'll be right back.
Help.
Welcome back to We Are Not Journalists, the only show where
there's no journalists, and we're not doing journalism.
We're just fucking around.
Just stop coming here for journalism. Could you read the fucking title, idiots?
Well, I mean, because we fear journalists. We distrust them. They are an unsavory bunch.
And we're gonna talk to the worst of the worst today.
Because while Walter was spring cleaning, he found a journalist hiding in his attic crawl space, and this guy turned out to be the head and founder of Popular Information, which is an independent news agency that does like fact-based reporting. Ugh. So if you can stand it, strap in, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, and we are joined by Judd Legum of Popular Information. Judd
Legum.
Thank you for joining us here in the Truth Zone.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Pew 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 pew. I'm gonna have my sound effects.
Yeah, of course we're gonna add them. We're totally not gonna forget that at all.
Hey, this is Max in the editing booth about 2 days after we recorded this interview. In your face, Walter Masterson. Pew 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 pew. Truth Zone.
So Judd, the media right now, it's a lot of just copying and pasting PR statements and stuff, and you're trying to just ruin that ecosystem.
Judd, it's a machine. It's a machine that puts out corporate-friendly talking points, and it's very efficient.
You know, it's like a perfect ecosystem, and you're just destroying it.
Yeah, what the deal?
Yeah.
Well, I think the good news is, it's been able to coexist with the kind of stuff that I'm putting out, and it doesn't seem to be struggling too much. There's more and more stuff every day. It seems like they're chugging along.
Yeah, but here you are bucking the norm with like original fact-based reporting. Is that what you call it?
That's what I try to do. Try to look at what's going on and see if there are holes, there are gaps, there are places where other outlets aren't paying enough attention, and then sort of burrow in there and see what we can find.
Disgusting.
But but it's fact-based reporting. But what about just getting both sides, right? Like the other side says something that's not true. You have to print that, and you have to print it as fact.
I will print it. I do think it's important to reach out. One, because it's a good way of making sure you're not sued. So it's always good to reach out and give people a chance. But I will not present two things as equal. I will let my readers know which side I think is true.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you should be calling it unpopular opinion. See what we did there?
Yeah.
If that's his case, but like, what happened? Who hurt you? Like, why did you start this news crusade?
Well, I started around 2018. I was really interested. I was working at a bigger outlet that I had founded called Think Progress, and it was fairly successful, but there were a lot of people working there. So I woke up and I kind of realized one day that I was doing basically 99% of things every day that I disliked, like dealing with management and paperwork and HR issues and all of that. So the reason I really started it is because I really like just doing the writing and the reporting and the research myself. So I decided I wanted to start something smaller where I would be the one doing that and not principally managing like other people who were doing that work.
Mm-hmm. But you do have a couple of people that contribute for you.
I have two women, Tess and Rebecca, who play a really important role, help me dig in, do the research, do the writing, do everything. I definitely wouldn't be possible anymore. I did it for 2 years just myself, but I would have probably burned out a long time ago if I didn't have Tess and Rebecca.
Oh, so you have two women working for you, and all right.
Yeah.
So, well, that's a good segue. There's
Mhm.
this whole diversity scandal now, and
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure
DEI.
you've heard about, yeah, DEI. I'm sure you've heard about the Boeing plane, that the disaster with Boeing, and it's all because of diversity. And they hired like a black person or something, and that's
Mm.
why the door ripped off mid-flight.
I mean,
And
this
I'm
is
just
an
like,
actual
and
thing
yeah.
that people are talking about it. Like we're hearing it. We're just
Yeah, I mean,
saying what
and that was
people are
like that
saying.
was the first thing I thought of. Like as soon as the door ripped off mid-flight, the first thought I had was, I think maybe they hired like a woman or like a black person, maybe like as an engineer
Mm.
or in management, somewhere as a pilot, And then that was my first thought. I was like, what
Okay.
is the race?
And if
Yeah.
you think Walter doesn't know what he's talking about, here's popular conservative commentator Charlie Kirk.
Like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the
you
game
wouldn't have
theory
done
I was
that.
talking
You
about
wouldn't
above.
have. You wouldn't have done that before. That's not an immediate. No, you wouldn't have done that before. That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
I guess the real question is, why are people of color so bad at installing doors?
Yeah, I have heard a lot about that myself, particularly from Elon Musk and others. The interesting thing is when you look into this, one, this is an issue with these 737 MAX planes. And as you know, the door wasn't the first thing that happened. There were a number of crashes. A lot of people died. This was in 2018, 2019, before Boeing even started their DEI efforts. The other thing that's interesting about this, when you look into their DEI efforts, Boeing is not a particularly diverse company. It's got its almost entire leadership team is white males. It's got a white male CEO, a white male COO. Many of the top engineering folks are white men. And in fact, since they started their diversity efforts, their executive team has only gotten more white, despite their efforts to the contrary. So it's amazing actually how widespread that became and almost taken as gospel when this was a problem that long predated any DEI efforts, and all the people in charge of the company who are actually making the decisions they're making were white men.
Okay, no, but I feel like you're a journalist, you're not a business person, and in the world of business, which I'm familiar, there's a concept that they teach in business schools called scapegoating. Where you raise an employee, like you train them, you put them in a position of like limited power, the way you would a goat, and then when something like this happens, they take the blame. And I feel like with your refusal to adopt this DEI narrative, you're making it harder for these white male CEOs to divert attention to black people and why they're at fault for everything.
Perhaps.
Explain
The
yourself.
other interesting thing that we found when we started digging into this is that actually the most of the MAX is made by a subcontractor who works with Boeing.
Aha! Yeah, here we go.
And Matt Walsh, according to your own reporting, mentioned this. Spirit Aerosystems, right?
Spirit Aerosystems.
There we
and
go.
if you actually look at Spirit Aerosystems, they have had a series of complaints from employees saying that
DEI.
essentially profits were being placed at the forefront and they were not actually given enough time to flag quality control issues. And so there appears to be a fairly systemic issue with Boeing's, main supplier, just cranking and churning out materials without appropriate quality control checks. So if you're looking for an answer to, well, how did a door fly off in the middle of a flight? That's probably a good place to look. Are these lawsuits that have been filed by the employees themselves at their supply, by their
You're saying that the employees actually launched a lawsuit into their parent company for their quality control measures.
That's correct.
How is that even allowed? I mean, if I was a CEO, if my employees were trying to sue me, I would seek retribution immediately.
Well, I don't know if they're going to be successful. They're essentially arguing that they've been retaliated against for bringing up these issues. So that's how they're bringing the lawsuit.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm talking about. If I was an employer, that's exactly what I would do. I would retaliate.
Yeah, that could
Cancel
potentially get
culture.
you into. You may want to consult a lawyer before going down that course.
Isn't this kind of like just like very fringe theory? Like where are you getting these facts? Like if this is so true, why isn't the New York Times running headlines about, these companies and the retaliation against their employees and their failure to check their own systems or listen to their own inspectors or provide time for inspections? And so like, why am I just getting it from you?
Well, my view is that I think a lot of the media coverage focuses on treating these issues like a sporting event. So it's like, who's doing well? People are making these claims. Are people believing them? Are they not believing them? Who's in power? Who's gaining power? Whose stock price is up? Whose stock price is down? And less of it focuses on what are the decisions being made that are impacting people. So I think when you start to do that and you start looking at the primary source materials where people are really telling you what's happening, you get a much clearer view about what's happening in the world.
Yeah, primary sources are too woke.
You can't
trust them.
That's why you have to report on what people believe to be true, because that becomes its own sort of truth. I think George Orwell said something like that.
Possibly.
In that book, what's that book? I haven't read it, but we talk about it a lot on the show. I'm going to read it one of these days. The George Orwell book,
Animal Farm.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. God. Yeah, that's why I don't eat pigs.
So we're going to move on to our favorite subject, which is shoplifting and how it's bankrupting major department stores, bail reform. It's fentanyl.
Yeah, but it just seems like I can't go into Walgreens and just like pick up a shampoo because I have curly hair, and that stuff is like locked behind like 3 inches of bulletproof glass now. And why are these organized retail crime syndicates allowed to steal 70? Yeah, they're allowed to steal $70 billion worth of retail merchandise every year. Like where is the law here?
Where's the accountability?
Yeah, where's the accountability?
Yeah. Well, one of the problems is there's very little accountability as far as the numbers that are being thrown around. And actually, very recently, the National Retail Federation have had to retract a claim that there was $70+ billion worth of organized retail crime each year from retailers.
It was higher. It must have been higher.
Well, it was not higher.
Oh,
it was not higher. It was actually such an absurdly high figure that it could never have possibly been true. If you look at their own estimates from other reports that they've put out, the level of retail theft has basically been constant. It's about 1.4 to 1.6% for more than a decade. Those figures, the 1.4%, it's not just shoplifting. It's all forms of what they call shrink, which means shoplifting and what they call external theft. That's a part of it. It's not even the majority of it. Most of it is either internal theft, which is employees stealing stuff, which makes sense because employees have a lot more access to all the stuff, and just other kinds of inventory errors, like you damage stuff or you lose stuff or whatever. So there's been a lot of hubbub, a lot of media reporting, an immense amount of media reporting. When you dig into it, there is no data that supports the idea that there is any appreciable increase in retail theft in general or these sort of organized smash and grab mobs.
But you have to admit that an organized smash and grab mob sounds really cool. Like that pushes paper. And do you worry that this is the reason why Popular Information isn't more of a household name? Because you're not pushing the smash and grab gangs like that. Like, you get some
Yeah, smash and
Soderbergh
grab
music in
gang.
there. You get those Ocean 11 like split screens, and they just walk out with like a Just for Men.
Well, that's my retirement plan. Actually, if this doesn't work out, and my current approach to things doesn't work out, I can just have a revelation and realize that I've been brainwashed by the woke mob, and I feel like that's going to be a very lucrative second career for me.
To hear you say it, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. But for the time being, I think it is important. And it's actually kind of interesting because even among my readers, which somewhat span the political spectrum, but as you can imagine, tilt to the left, I get a lot of, I would say, a significant amount of angry emails every time I write about this topic, with people who write in and say, "Oh, but I went to like the CVS or this drugstore and I saw people stealing things."
This person, they were in a CVS and they personally saw someone shoplift. So all of those statistics put out by all the major retailers is false, obviously.
I mean, I think that's part of like what drives this is it. There are people who steal things from stores. I mean, it's not a new thing. This is something I think that has been happening since they invented stores. But people's own experience and the fact that they have viewed it with their own eyes really colors, how they're ready to receive this information. I think the retailers take advantage of that because they're able to tap into this and, hopefully get some laws passed that they want that would make, life easier for them in different ways. And this was actually interesting because I did a report about a bunch of Target closures, and we looked at like the police data around these Targets, and what we found was actually the number of thefts in these Targets was lower than the ones that they weren't closing. And then there was I had never heard of them, but some sort of one of these investment groups, they write these reports for people who have a lot of money and they're trying to figure out what stocks to invest in. And they said, "Oh, actually, we looked at this Popular Information report, and all of these stores that were closed were actually these small footprint stores that they put in cities that was supposed to be like the new fresh way that Target is going to expand, but actually they weren't doing very well because it was a new concept for them." But when they closed them, instead of saying, "Oh, well, these small stores in the middle of cities don't really work out like our other stores," they were like, "Oh, theft. It's such a huge issue. We're forced to close these down."
Yeah, no, I mean, let's blame it on, Black people, like diversity, stuff like that. I mean, it's a great business move. That way the share price doesn't go down. Be like, hey, we had to close Target because we had it in a, quote, inner city. I know we all know what
no,
inner
come on,
city means.
Come on, urban environment.
Urban environment. Sorry, thank you, Max. That's, I think, urban environments, inner city, and that it can, we know exactly what we're talking about here, and everyone just sort of shrugs and goes, what can you do?
Now, actually, I have to ask, how long did it take you to uncover these actual numbers? Like how many weeks of research did it take before you found the numbers on these closings?
That's a fairly involved thing, but we do have, as I mentioned, we have a couple of people. So I think that probably took about a week from when we first were like, well, let's look into this to getting it published.
So three of you, right? There's three of you on this team, and it took you a week. So I mean, like, honestly, like a week in corporate media time is so valuable. Like, I mean, how are you supposed to expect an outlet that's like paycheck to paycheck, like CNN, to spend like 3 people a week? I mean, that could be almost $2,000 at some of these people.
I mean,
like, less. Max, they have interns. Never mind.
Max, you're going to lose Trump coverage.
No.
So, like, those 3 people that you put, let's say CNN puts 3 people on to, shoplifting, for example. That's 3 people that can't look at Trump's Truth Social tweets and stuff like that. That's like valuable.
That's true, and they're actually probably unpaid interns doing some of that work. So I imagine, when you think about
It's
it,
just terrible business, really.
they're getting 3 credits for semesters of work. So every week is a tenth of it. So that's 0.3 credit hours. Do you know how much tuition is, Walter? This could be $15,000, $16,000 investment, and for what? Just to be a little bit more accurate, to not blankly parrot what the Retail Federation wants you to say.
And Judd
that
doesn't know how
Target,
business
if you go back and look, Target put out that press release about why they closed these stores citing theft. That got wide coverage in basically every single major outlet. Not a single outlet really took the time to evaluate those claims in any way. No data was released by Target. There was no effort by Target to actually justify their claim that, it was because of theft. But yet it's still able to generate these headlines. And I think that's a real kind of systemic failure that we have now, is that business reporting in particular is so much of it is devoted to just reporting what businesses say, rather than trying to give people an accurate idea of what's happening. In the economy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and this is a machine, and it works very well. And I feel like it's to use another business term, synergy, right? You have because a lot of these corporations are also the people that own the media outlets that are reporting on them. I'm not sure if you know this, and because of that, they sort of are able to further a narrative just hand in hand. They crafted there's a PR team over here who gives it to a newsreader who then presents it, and that is corroborated by online outlets who don't have the time or energy to do fact-based reporting.
This actually became a big issue after January 6th. One of the things that we were reporting on were all the corporations that were donating money to the people who were trying to overturn the election and violently attacking the Capitol as a result.
Oh, Antifa, yeah.
One of the Antifa, yes. One of the reasons why Popular Information, at the time a 2-person outlet, was able to basically own that space is that almost every major media outlet at the time was owned by a company who was actually donating to those politicians. And so, at least for a while, they were not eager to report. NBC was not eager to report that one of the top donors to members of Congress voting to overturn the election was NBC Comcast. CNN at the time was owned by AT&T, another one of the top donors. So it does become an issue.
Yeah.
So that just proves that January 6th was fake, and and it was just all the media and these political prisoners, man. Judd, you got one more chance. All right, this is last thing is the left is taking this book called Gender Queer, and they're just shoving it in kindergartners' faces and stuff. And that's why we need to ban books and everything, especially in Florida and everything. So I mean, please tell us more about that.
It's been interesting what's been going on in Florida, because you have heard a lot about this one book, Gender Queer. You and Ron DeSantis are apparently very interested in this one particular book.
Mm-hmm. I've never read the book at all. I mean, it's not like it's not like I have the book in my house. I'm not reading it right now.
Walter,
why would it be in my house? Dude, I mean, it's not in my house.
Look, first of all,
I didn't say it was in my house.
I gave you that book for Christmas. You said it was the most special gift.
Oh yeah.
You said you're my most special friend.
I mean, it was part of a research
I appreciate
thing.
It.
You know what? But I'm not. It's not near my bed at all. Whatever.
Yeah.
I
but
read
anyways,
it just to be all right.
Regardless, there is one page in that book that I think a lot of parents have seen that involves an underage fellatio.
Yeah. That's true. And, that's what we've been hearing a lot about. Um, Unfortunately, what's been going on in Florida has been impacting a lot more than one book. And things have gotten much worse when last year Ron DeSantis signed a bill saying that parents could seek the removal of any book that had any description of sex or sexual activity in the book. And there's one county, Escambia County, who went through their entire collection and looked for compliance with this new law. And they took 2,800 books off the shelves, including 3 different dictionaries, multiple encyclopedias, the Guinness Book of World Records, Sherlock Holmes.
This all sounds like just hardcore porn to me.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you say this, but Ron DeSantis was asked about it, and he said, no, they didn't.
He's called it a hoax.
Yes.
What's interesting is you can actually, and with the help of, there's a lot of concerned parents in Florida, and so with the help of some of the groups down there filing public records requests, you can see exactly what books are being taken off the shelves. And there are thousands of books being taken off the shelves. First, they take them off. And there's actually now a rule in Florida that says as soon as someone challenges it, you have 5 days to get it out of the library. Then it goes through a lengthy process to see if that's going to be upheld permanently. In many cases, it is. But as a result, there are a lot fewer books available to Florida students, which is an interesting way to go because Florida does have both a teacher shortage and fairly poor rankings as far as literacy and reading. So you would think that they'd want to be encouraging people to read. I think that, I have an 11-year-old son. I think as far as inappropriate content, I'm not really worried about him going to the library and just like checking stuff out. Like he has he has access to a computer, a phone, things like that. There's other places you can be concerned if you're concerned about your child getting inappropriate content.
It's sort of the opposite.
The library
for
is
me.
probably the best place for them to be.
Yeah, it's sort of the opposite. I leave my kid alone in his room with his iPhone, maybe a tablet or something, and as long as he agrees not to go to the library, it's totally fine. And it's like, he's,
if you don't watch your kids, like they will just go and they will read voraciously. They will read all sorts of books, and if you are a parent,
they'll read graduate level books.
About
how race intersects with the law. Law school level courses.
You let an 8-year-old in a library, the first thing they'll seek out is the memoir of someone who has transitioned later in life. They can't help it.
Yeah.
It's like they like Peppa Pig and they like heartbreaking stories of finding your own sexual identity. It's just and without parents standing in the way. By the way, this is an argument that I've heard a lot. This policy is saving taxpayers from having their tax dollars spent on books that harm or otherwise teach kids things that they're not being taught at home.
Yes.
Right. So like, aren't we just saving money by putting these books through a lengthy examination process instead of leaving them on the shelves?
Not actually the case. It's interesting. This is actually something I was almost going to put this in the newsletter I wrote this morning, but it didn't go in. But I'll give this to you guys as an exclusive.
Ooh.
Which is that every time one of these books is challenged, and in fact, it's now written into the law that you have to have a hearing. And these hearings are public hearings, which means they have to comply with the different transparency rules, which means there has to be a transcript made of them. And so I was looking at a receipt from one of these court transcribers who had to be brought in for a hearing of a book. It was just a picture book. It was clearly, there was nothing inappropriate about this book. It cost $450 for that court reporter to be there, I think, for 3 hours for this hearing. And so you multiply that times hundreds and hundreds of similar hearings, and you can see just how expensive this is. And actually, what's interesting, this is just happening, but what's interesting is Florida Republicans are realizing, hey, maybe being the book banning party isn't like a great forward-looking image for us.
Rhinos.
We just saw
They're
Ron
traitors.
DeSantis. We just saw Ron DeSantis go down in flames after really embracing all of these culture war issues. Maybe this isn't working. So the Republicans have actually introduced a bill. They've moved it through a couple of committees already, saying that if you, for every book you challenge above 5 books, you have to pay $100 a book to challenge it. And of course, the idea is to prevent people from making frivolous challenges. And what's interesting when you look into it is almost all of these challenges are being made by a handful of people. In fact, there's 2 people in Florida, a guy named Bruce Friedman and a woman named Vicky Baguette, who are responsible for the majority of book challenges.
Now hang on. A majority would mean over half.
Yes, I think that it would be accurate if you look at the ones that are challenged by individuals.
Okay, so are you insinuating, Judd, that these 2 people have read these books that they're trying to ban? So that's crazy, Judd.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's insinuating that they've read like what 1,400 books.
I've actually interviewed both of them, each for more than an hour.
Oh wait, what?
We're not on great. We're candidly are not on great terms now.
Mm-hmm.
I tried texting them yesterday for comment, and Bruce got back to me, but it was a little bit of a snarky response, and I didn't hear from Vicky. But anyway, Bruce told me he wasn't reading the books.
Wait, what?
When he first started challenging them.
Wait, no, come on. That sounds. Did you fact check that information, Judd?
Well, I had to take him at his word on that one. But basically,
Max, let's fact check this.
They started rejecting his challenges because he really wasn't filling out the forms and was just writing the words "save souls" on the challenge forms that he was submitting in bulk. Those were then rejected, and now he has to provide a little more information about why he's challenging each individual book. Luckily, there's a lot of activists, including those associated with Moms for Liberty, created websites where you can kind of cut and paste what parts of the books you should be objecting to.
Right, because I think that's helpful because a lot of people have a problem with reading comprehension and writing, and then you have this like form that like has you like write your name and the name of the book and why the book should. that's a lot. So thankfully, Moms for Liberty is sort of streamlining this process. Yeah, that's great.
Is the site if people are interested in checking it out.
Hey gang, it's Max again. Judd is not cursing at you. I just, on reflection, don't necessarily want to promote this website, but we checked it out and this is what happened. Oh God.
It'll get the books banned. Yeah. I don't think that has any there's no correlation between like, the literacy and wanting books banned at all. And I don't think we should address that.
Walter, so this is so clearly just like a Wix template, so much for the fact that if you click on like the third menu tab, it just says hello world. If you click on the blog.
So it's a site made for the illiterate by the illiterate.
Sorry, I'm just like a whole segment on it because they have like objectionable items such as referring to a child as themselves because it is a non-binary pronoun there.
If you look at the challenge forms, you get it from Florida, or you're looking at ones. I've done a bunch of other states too over the years. A lot of times, it'll just be this website. They just print out the little. I think they call it on here slick sheets. So they've got it basically designed so you just print it out, Just attach it to your challenge form and you're all there. They claim that they're not formally associated with Moms for Liberty. By the way, I should just say I'm not sure exactly who's behind it, but I will say that it's discussed very frequently on Moms for Liberty chats and other folks who are seeking to ban books.
It seems interesting that such a big thing, because we hear about all these book bans, we hear how pervasive it is. The fact that so many of these challenges come from so few people. I just want to bring it back to the legislation in Florida, because does it do anything besides impose a fee for multiple challenges?
No, not really. I don't think it'll really solve the issue, to be honest with you. I think it shows that the politics are changing, but one, you get your money back if your challenge is successful. And the way they've made the law in Florida is so broad, it's like any book with sex could be upheld. So a lot of you go through, that's what happened in Escambia County. You go through the books, you start looking at a dictionary, they're going to start describing sex, as part of their definition for certain words. And the other thing is, what's happened in Florida is that it started off with these, Moms for Liberty types or others challenging books. But in a lot of cases now, it's not people challenging it. It's the schools themselves sort of showing their allegiance to DeSantis and this whole thing, just going through and kind of self-censoring on their own volition. So there needs to be some more changes. There's actually some lawsuits are going on that are challenging these laws as unconstitutional, because actually the interesting thing is students, even high school students, middle school students, elementary school students, have constitutional rights, including the right to go to a library and not having, for instance, all the books with LGBTQ characters just removed because people on the school board don't like LGBTQ people. That's
nothing. I thought you were going to say about the Second Amendment. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll edit that part out. So I thought he was going to say that
they have the right to bear arms. Yeah,
that's fine. All right, totally different route. But
wow,
Judd, this has been just an absolute disaster for our podcast, and I just this is terrible.
Oh my God, I just feel like it's going to be confusing to present these alternate narratives to narratives. And so I think we are going to have to put a challenge in on you in this podcast. Because again, we want to protect our kids who are listening. And I feel like you're teaching them to hate themselves.
Yeah.
By pushing these alternate narratives. And it's very destabilizing.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Nevertheless, I have enjoyed being on the podcast.
Well, that's just your opinion. Anyways, listeners, this was Judd Legum from Popular Information. You can find more about his news service in the show notes, if you dare.
So in other news, DeSantis, he dropped out of the race.
I can't believe it. I thought Ron was going the distance no matter what. He had a bus that said never surrender.
I don't get it. I don't get it either, Max. And so, it's been kind of disappointing. As soon as he drops out, he endorsed Trump.
But Trump has spent the better part of a year making him look like an incompetent fascist. Like Trump has been like, Ron doesn't know what he's doing. He's been bad for Florida. No one likes him personally. He's been insulting Puddin' Fingers, Ron DeSantimonious. He's like made him a laughingstock in the party.
Ron turns around and is like, oh yeah, like he's great. And just total 180.
It's a bad look. It's cowardly is what it is. I don't know what to do.
Well, fortunately, Max, I brought in an expert on cowardly reversals.
Oh yeah? Who could you possibly get that would understand what it's like to be insulted by Trump for the better part of a year and then immediately become his lapdog?
Yeah, well, I'm calling him now.
Senator Ted Cruz's office, how can we help you?
So we're supposed to talk to Senator we need an expert on cowardly reversals, and we were supposed to have him on our show. Because a few years ago, Trump called his wife ugly. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
One minute.
This is the first time we've gotten through in 3 months.
Ted Cruz.
Oh.
Thank you for calling my Washington, D.C. office. It is an honor and privilege to serve the great state of Texas as your United States Senator. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments.
What a
It's so okay. So we can't get him to talk about cowardly reversals this week.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You know what? I want to apologize to our viewers. He was supposed to come on the show and talk about, being a coward. You know what? It's my fault. We're going to try and fix this for next week. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
All right. See you next week on another exciting We Are Not Journalists.
Yeah.
Looking for a new career? Welcome to Do HVAC Training Service Center in North Charleston. Enroll today in our comprehensive HVAC training hands-on field experience-based program, covering troubleshooting, maintenance, installation, and more on various HVAC systems and ductwork. We offer EPA and NAEP preparation and testing, along with various certifications. Enjoy payment options. Achieve certification in under 5 months. Enroll now for your new journey of skill development and career advancement. Log on to dewhvactrainingsc.com to inquire.